Delgado here, coming to you from the Guam Police Department headquarters, where they're just about to hold a press conference involving several Department of Corrections officers taken into custody just this morning. Let's go inside where Chief J.I. Cruz is about to speak.
Good afternoon, everybody. This press conference is being held to provide information regarding a joint investigation between the Guam Police Department and the Department of Corrections. Early this morning, members of the Mandanya Drug Task Force, GPD's Federal Task Force, Criminal Investigations Division, and Special Operations Division, along with corrections officers from the Department of Corrections, executed a shakedown to conduct a search of the premises at DOC for prison contraband. As a result of that shakedown, officers confiscated cell phones and what is suspected to be crystal methamphetamine, also known as ice. 2 corrections officers who were on duty were taken into custody, and an additional 3 corrections officers who were off duty were also taken into custody for questioning relative to this morning's incident. Also brought in for questioning were 2 civilians and 1 Department of Public Works employee who, at the time, we believed to be involved in this morning's incident and investigation. I would like to make it clear that this morning's shakedown, as well as the ongoing interviews, are the result of a joint GPD DOC criminal investigation. Because it is ongoing, I am unable to release the specific details of this case. What I can tell you is that the officers of the task force, both GPD and as a result of the evidence that was obtained indicating that a flow of illegal drugs, specifically crystal methamphetamine and other prison contraband, specifically 3 cell phones, were located at DOC. Additionally, related to this investigation, search warrants were executed at 2 residences, resulting in the confiscation of crystal methamphetamines, firearms, and cash currency. Based on our investigation, 4 DOC guards have been arrested as a result of this morning's search and investigation. Those guards include Lieutenant Jeffrey Limo, Corrections Officer 1 Edward Crisostomo, Corrections Officer 1 Jerry Hokub, and Corrections Officer 1 Franklin Rosalind. All 4 officers will be booked and confined at the Department of Corrections. Lieutenant Limo was arrested for official misconduct, receiving bribes, and accepting gratuities for past services. Officer Edward Crisostomo was arrested for the use and carry of a firearm during or in relation to further drug trafficking. Corrections Officer Jerry Hokub was arrested for official misconduct, promoting prison contraband, and conspiracy to promote prison contraband. And Corrections Officer Franklin Rosalind was arrested for official misconduct and promoting prison contraband. Also arrested were Paul L. Johnson, Roxanne L. Hokub, and DPW employee Ron C. Meno. Mr. Johnson was arrested for illegal possession of a controlled substance, with the intention to distribute and promoting prison contraband. Ms. Roxanne Hokub was arrested for illegal possession of a controlled substance with the intent to distribute, promoting prison contraband, and conspiracy to promote prison contraband, as well as bribery. DPW employee Ron Meno was arrested for official misconduct, bribery, conspiracy to promote prison contraband, and criminal facilitation. Mr. Meno and Ms. Hokub were booked and confined, and they are at the Department of Corrections. Mr. Johnson was booked and released. It is important to note that this investigation and the actions of all our law enforcement officers is a collective and collaborative commitment to rid our island of drugs and create a safer community for all our residents and our visitors. As you know, our agencies have been very aggressive, chasing down leads that would bring us to sources of drugs on our island. Unfortunately, that chase has led us to some arrests within our government agencies. But we hope that the message is clear. We do not condone the use, the sale, or the distribution of drugs, and we will not tolerate the further poisoning of our island. This concludes the portion of this release. I am subject to any questions that anybody may have.
Sir, Jerome Nicholas, was he part of the officers who were also arrested?
Jerome Nicholas is one of those who we currently have in custody. We have picked him up. He is being transported to the Guam Police Department pending an interview of Mr. Nicholas. So at this point in time, we have not effectuated any arrests. And again, that's all dependent on the interview that we will be conducting.
But he is a DOC officer.
He is a corrections officer one. Yes.
So there are more arrests pending?
There are potentially more arrests pending relative to this case.
How far back would you say this case goes?
This has been a joint investigation that we have been doing for several months now. And again, I can't give the specific details as to when exactly and what tidbit of information that we came across that allowed us to conduct this investigation. But this was an investigation that started several months ago based on information that we had received.
You said the 4 officers were in custody. Where are they now? Are they in?
They are here at the Guam Police Department.
Teason?
Well, they're here at the headquarters at Teason. Again, we are just wrapping up our interviews, but based on the interviews that we have conducted thus far, they have been placed under arrest, and they are still in GPD's custody here at our headquarters.
What are the special arrangements being made at DOC since they are DOC officers?
Well, of course, we have to ensure the safety of these officers. They have been with the department for a number of years, so therefore we have to ensure their safety as well. So it's not necessarily making accommodations because they're officers, but for their safety.
So can you explain exactly what that means?
Well, we're going to make sure that they're not accessible to other inmates that they may have dealt with in the past. Again, they are still corrections officers, and we want to ensure their safety. So they will be confined in areas not together with the general population.
Will they be terminated from their jobs?
We go through the process. There is a process through the Civil Service Commission, and we have to go through that process.
So you haven't served them with any kind of adverse action?
We're awaiting the investigation from
I'm
GPD.
assuming they'll go on some sort of administrative leave?
As soon as we get the investigation from GPD, we'll begin that process.
Who were the owner of the homes that were raided?
The residences were the residents of Mr. Paul Johnson and Ms. Roxanne Holcomb.
Are they related?
We do not believe at this time that they are related.
Is Ms. Holcomb related to Jerry Holcomb?
We do not believe that there is any relation between the two Holcombs involved in this incident.
Are there potential inmates who will be arrested who are promoting prison contraband?
That is part of the investigation, as I mentioned to Nick, that there could be subsequent arrests relative to this. That is something that we are definitely taking a look at.
Lieutenant Lima was in charge of your internal affairs division for a number of years. In fact, I believe in one of the file stories that the Post reported, he was an acting director at one time. With 28 pending contraband cases, this leaves many to question and wonder the integrity of any of the investigations at the Department of Corrections.
Again, with the investigation ongoing, these individuals have been implicated. They have not yet been convicted, so we assume them as innocent until proven guilty. We have temporarily assigned Captain Uggan to be the internal affairs supervisor, and so he will be taking over all the current investigations.
Can you speak to the status of the 28 pending contraband cases that you have opened since January of this year?
Right, those are still all under investigation at this point in time, and like I said, Captain Uggan, who has assumed that position, will continue with those investigations.
And Chief, following up with what you said earlier about the possible arrest of inmates, can you confirm that those would include Bruno Simmons and Sean Johnson?
That is what we're looking at this time.
Is there a relation to Paul between Sean and Paul?
There is a relationship, yes.
And the DPW employee, Mr. Angoro, what's his position?
He's working with the highway maintenance crew and within the administrative portion section of highway maintenance.
I know you said you couldn't give specifics, but how is that DPW employee tied into this case?
Again, through the course of the investigation, we have evidence that has led us to believe that there's a collaboration that has been going on. So based on that, there is sufficient probable cause to effectuate an arrest with regards to that.
Can you confirm how many pounds of methamphetamine were found this morning?
Right now, we believe that at one of the residences, there were over 30 grams of crystal methamphetamine, and we're still trying to confirm the amount at the second residence.
Oh, I'm sorry, we're referencing the prison.
At the prison, I don't have that amount at this point in time.
We're hearing that the DEA is involved as well because there's potential drug trafficking from on and off.
Yes, so part of the group that was effectuating the shakedown are the task force officers, the federal task force officers, who are technically speaking employees of the Guam Police Department. They're officers, but they are embedded with our federal law enforcement partners. So because this involves the trafficking of ice and, or crystal methamphetamine, we include the DEA in this investigation as well. So our federal partners are very much on board with this investigation, and the DEA will be part of that.
DOC is already dealing with a shortage of officers and manpower levels. How is this going to impact with 4 possibly additional arrests? How will this impact your manning?
Well, of course, it's going to impact us substantially. We've met with the command staff, the warden, and the captains to look at our current schedule and see how we're going to be able to shift individuals. We have shifted to an 8-hour shift, so it allows us to allow overtime within the ranks. So, you know, we're going to have to deal with the loss of manpower. I mean, that's the reality of operating a 24/7 facility.
Other than Lieutenant Limo, what's the average, like, I don't know, time the other officers have been at DOC?
Anywhere from 2 to 7 years.
2 to 7 years. 2 to 7 years. Is that a concern for you that they're kind of newly integrated, or at least you have someone who's been there for 2 years and is involved in allegations such as this?
It's concerning regardless of how many years you have in the department. You know, these officers, when they took their oath, were sworn to uphold the laws of Guam. So regardless of how many years you have in the department, it's concerning to us.
What units were the officers who've been arrested assigned to? Were any of them assigned to?
Most of them were assigned to post. One officer was assigned to transportation, and then of course Lieutenant Limo with internal affairs.
You said posts.
To post the various posts around.
Oh,
the
various
police,
posts.
yeah.
What are all the jobs that Lieutenant Limo currently holds? The positions? He's in internal affairs.
He's internal affairs. He runs transport. He does
Unit manager.
unit manager. So there are various functions, and those today I signed the personnel order for Captain Ogden to take those functions over.
Lieutenant Jeff Limo he's been the face of DOC for the last several years. Many people trust him, and he's always been a force of authority here. What can you say to the integrity of DOC because of what's going on now?
Yeah, it's a sad day for DOC. But you know, the reality is we need to let the judicial process take its course. But we also don't condone any illegal activities. All the officers, we've met with several of the officers during the shift changes, and the morale remains high. The majority of the officers at DOC don't condone these actions, and we just want the public to know that, you know, we do have good officers on board, and so whenever we see situations as this, they also have a sigh of relief that, you know, we're tracking on getting these individuals who bring contraband into the department. So morale still remains high. We'll be meeting with all the shifts as the shift changes, and to talk to them to ensure them that we support them in the work that they do.
How do you think DOC can build back the public's trust? I mean, you guys are assigned to protect the prisoners and ensure the safety of the general public, but yet, for every single month this year, you guys have had reports of contraband, cell phones, drugs inside what's supposed to be the most secure places in the entire island. How do you respond to that?
Yeah, DOC is not the only facility. Every facility in the United States deals with contraband. You know, we have a facility that is harder to secure as a result of the layout. And because of that, we also have limited manpower. We're not making any excuses. We don't condone it. I think we've made great strides. You know, the 26, 27 cases that are currently open show that we're making efforts in combating contraband. You may look at it as negative. We look at it as a positive. These are 27 items of contraband that have not gone into the facility. Working with DOC this morning, with GPD this morning, you know, we're making inroads. And really, the way we look at it, we have to look at it in a positive manner, that the only way is up. And so as we move forward and we work with our officers, we want to instill in that we have pride in them and we have trust in them, and that moving forward we're going to make DOC a better place.
So has DOC taken any administrative action against any of the inmates who were found in possession of drugs and cell phones?
Again, we're going to await the outcome of the investigation for GPD before we take any action against them.
No,
Again,
these are for the prior cases, sir.
Which
Have
ones?
you guys taken any action against any inmate since January?
Again, you know, we have to wait till the investigations, they're currently ongoing. You know, we can't just do actions when we haven't closed the case.
Right,
We have to
but
close
you
the
had an
case and
internal
then...
affairs director who is in charge, who's now been arrested and accused of being the very person who was promoting contraband, so.
Again, you know, we've turned that over to Captain Uggan, and Captain Uggan will take over those investigations.
Would you characterize this as cleaning house?
Well, you know, in any institution, in any public safety organization, there are always going to be individuals who take advantage of their power. And, you know, we look at this in a positive light, that as we find these individuals, we slowly weed them out of the institution and bring actually more credibility to the organization.
Lieutenant Limo, he also had some part with hiring of recent officers, correct?
Not necessarily hiring, but was involved in some of the training.
Okay, that will do it.
One last question with the two inmates I had mentioned earlier. Where are they assigned to? The ones that are in question, Bruno and Sean, are they in post 6?
Yeah, they're in post 6, but they have been moved to another area of post 6.
Is the entire facility still on lockdown? I spoke to you this morning.
Yes.
and you mentioned it was. So is that going to continue for the rest of the week?
What we did this morning, where GPD left off, we actually did a shakedown of the entire post 6. We're trying at this point in time to limit movement within the facility as a result of this.
Okay, thanks for coming.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Have a great day.
We're going to do an interview right now, so don't go away. We have an interview with Lena coming in, so please stand like that. I'm making my way outside here.
Okay, so there you heard the latest from the Guam Police Department, Department of Public Works Director, and the Director of the Department of Corrections with the latest on that investigation carried out over the Department of Corrections. Earlier today, they did confirm that 4 Department of Correction officers have been arrested, confirming that those officers are Frank Rosalind, Jerry Halkog, Ed Crisostimo, and Jeff Limo, as well as 2 civilians, Paul Johnson, Roxanne Halkog, and a DPW highway maintenance employee, Ron Meno. And all of them have been individually charged with charges that range from official misconduct to promoting prison contraband. Others, like the civilians, charged with illegal possession, as there have been at least more than 30 grams of crystal meth found in one case in one of the raids carried out at a home. And joining us now is the legislative chair of public safety, Senator Talina Nelson. Senator, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Hafide.
So, Hafide, what is your immediate reaction to the situation that's unfolding here this morning at the Guam Police Department?
Well, I think this sends a large message to the people of Guam that no one is above the law. and that our public safety is working very hard to help rid our island of any drugs, no matter what the cost. Even if we have to go with inside our agencies to clean it out, then this is an appropriate action that we must do.
It definitely puts into question a lot of things that have transpired over at the Department of Corrections, especially when one of the individuals arrested is a longtime employee there in charge of internal affairs and special operations, and was the spokesperson for the Department of Corrections for quite some time.
Yes, I want to go with the understanding that that the case is still under investigation, and even though that this may have happened at DOC, there are other correction officers that are working their hardest and they are doing the right thing. And so, you know, I'd like to just stand behind the Department of Corrections and all the work that they've been doing, and also the Guam Police Department for this task force and them working together to solve this issue.
Do you think that more people, management-wise, need to be held accountable just for what's transpired and the result of what happened today?
This does become an accountability issue for a lot of us, and so I think this is going to open up and bring in some new light, and really take another look at how we run things within our agency.
All right, Senator Nelson, and of course you did have some oversight hearings since you've begun serving here as one of the island leaders. Any more planned, especially in light of what's happening here?
Yes, we're still holding an oversight with DOC to address some of their standard operating procedures. And, you know, we cannot really do any further actions until this investigation is complete.
All right, and any final thoughts?
I just want to recognize our public safety officers, our police and Department of Correction work officers also. Although this, you know, this is the tragedy that this happened, let's take a moment to remind ourselves of the people that are doing the right thing, that are working hard to protect our island, and
Definitely.
we'll be grateful for that.
Senator Nelson, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. Have a good day.
And so, yeah, that was pretty much the latest as we heard reaction there from the public safety chair at the legislature, Senator Selena Nelson. Still, of course, applauding the efforts of investigators with this case and that drug raid carried out over at the Department of Corrections, as well as 2 homes here in Guam just today. Again, 4 corrections officers under arrest, including Lieutenant Jeff Limo, a longtime serving employee who is on the brink of retirement from the Department of Corrections, but also the head of Internal Affairs Investigation, working in special operations, and the spokesperson for the prison as well. Ed Crisosimo, a corrections officer, other corrections officer Jerry Hokog, and Franklin Rosalind arrested, as well as 2 DOC employees, civilian employees, Paul Johnson and Roxanne Hokog. Each of them individually charged from a range of charges: official misconduct, promoting prison contraband, and civilians we were told to charge with illegal possession of drugs, and also a DPW employee who, through the investigators, have found was involved, Ron Meadow, allegedly involved for his part in all this. And so several individuals, of course, booked and confined, with the exclusion of Mr. Paul Johnson, who has been booked and released. The officials here, they did confirm that they do have another corrections officer, Jerome St. in custody, but of course he's still being questioned in all this. There are more arrests pending, including charges that 2 inmates that were over at the Post 6 at the Special Housing Unit, the Max Unit at the Department of Corrections, and their involvement, they could be charged as well in all this. We, of course, will continue to keep you updated with this developing story as we continue to learn more. Stay tuned with KUAM.com and tune in tonight on Primetime for the full report.